Hello, everyone, and I'm so glad that you were able to join this session of Covidence Extraction 1 tool, which is optimized for interventional reviews and for Cochrane reviews. So, data extraction is probably the most difficult part of a systematic review. And hopefully, by the end of this webinar, you'll see how Covidence is able to make this process smoother and easier for you. So, Extraction 1 has undergone some amazing updates over recent months. So, it's now more flexible while still allowing an interventional review structure. So, if you have used data extraction 1 before, you'll see that it has changed significantly. Now, I will start with sharing my screen. And yeah, I hope you all can now view the screen. So my name is Razia Liani, and I am a community manager at Covidence, and I'm based in Canada. And I am going to be the session presenter today. I am also joined by my colleagues, Stephanie and Delindia, who are also community managers, and they're both based in the US. And they will be answering some of your questions in the background. And also, we'll have 2 slots for question answers, so they will be answering there as well. So just a bit of housekeeping before we begin. So this session is being run on a standard webinar mode, and all webinar attendees, they are muted. However, you can ask questions at any time, so you can enter the questions on the question box that you might be seeing on the right-hand side of your screen, and you can do so anytime, and we'll do our best to answer your questions before the session ends. But if not, we'll follow up via emails afterwards. We're also recording the webinar, so you will receive a link to the recording by email within the next 24 hours. And before we jump in, I'm going to provide you a bit of contextual information about Covidence for anyone who is here and has not already used the platform. So Covidence was created by and for the research community and is designed to streamline the review process from importing your citations to all the way through the title and abstract screening to data extraction, risk of bias, and risk of bias assessment. So the platform allows a review team to significantly reduce the time that they take to create the reviews, meaning that people are able to produce better quality reviews faster. We have a full-time team based around the world that's continuously working on improving the product and providing the technical support to our global user community. Covidence is cloud-based platform, which means that there's nothing to download or update. And we support the world's largest review community with over 400,000 users around the world. If you're here, we'd love to know where are you from as well. So what we'll cover today is that the focus is data extraction section of the review workflow, which is probably the most complex part of any review. And it is a stage you will get to before you export your data outside of Covidence. So I'll provide you a demo of data extraction 1 and how the export will look like. And yeah, we'll have question answers slot between and after the webinar. Also, before we jump in, I want to know if you've used data extraction 1 already. Right, I've launched the poll now, and you should be able to see that on your screen. I will now just end the poll and share the results. So we see that most of you, around 80% of you, have not used data extraction 1. And So I think you are on the right place. And hopefully by the end of this webinar, you get more comfortable using data extraction one. Right. So moving on. What is data extraction? So data extraction is, if you have done a systematic review, you would know. Briefly, it's about collecting and organizing data from your included studies so that you can analyze or synthesize, um, or synthesize your studies or create a narrative summary. The best way to do this is by using a template or a form. And I recommend developing this at an early stage in the review process. Many review teams actually they include the sample data extraction form as part of their protocol. So having the information set out early in the review process will reduce the bias. The purpose of the form is basically to collect only the information you need in a standardized way. And a good data extraction form should minimize the need to go back to the source documents as per the Cochrane handbook. Covidence helps you to create a logical and well-structured template for your data collection. In extraction one, we basically provide you with a standardized template that you can customize to your requirements for an interventional review. There is no best way to build a data extraction form because it much depends on the type of review, the type of data, and your specific outcomes of interest. However, the basic process is organized into 5 steps. Firstly, you decide on the data that you want to capture. Usually, this is done at the protocol stage. Then you create a well-structured and easy to understand template, easy to understand and easy to use template. If any items are unclear, there's a risk that reviewers will make mistakes so as they use it. So think about the flow. Designing a good data extraction template does take some practice. Then pilot test this. So once you have a few studies included, you can then, you do not really need to wait until you have screened all of them. You can just try out the form and you can adjust as needed until you're happy. In Covidence, changes to the data extraction form that can be made at any time, you can do that anytime. And then finally, you extract the data and you might need to make more changes once the extraction is underway because no one gets it right at the first time. Then you compare the data and reach the consensus, which will give you the final output, which you export the data for analysis or synthesis. So this slide is basically the summary of data extraction one, which is optimized for structural data collection for intervention and Cochrane reviews. It uses standard structure and it currently requires 2 extractors. From extraction one, you can export to a CSV, an Excel, and so these both basically you can import the extracted data into the statistical program such as Stata or SPSS. And you can also export to RevMan Web and RevMan 5, which is something you can only do in extraction 1. You can access this from the export function of your review summary page, and I'll show you how to do that during the demo. While I'll show you how the export files really look like, but this is briefly how the CSV file look like. And like everything is in one sheet, while for Excel, one study have its own sheet within an Excel. Right, so we can use frameworks to guide the development of that extraction form. And when it comes to interventional reviews, a very commonly used framework is PICO framework, which you might have heard of. P for population, I for intervention, C for comparison, O for outcomes. So in this review, like for the webinar, for the purpose of this webinar, we have built a data extraction template from a protocol assessing the effectiveness of vitamin C for preventing and treating common cold. And here I will go through each of the PICO so that you can follow it throughout the webinar. So population, which is generally the characteristics of people that you want to study. And this review will look at adults in randomized controlled trial. Next is intervention, which is a treatment that you're investigating. So, for example, in this review, we are looking at the effectiveness of vitamin C. So, vitamin C is our intervention. And then our competitor is placebo here. And the outcomes, which are the measures used to assess the effectiveness of the treatment, um, in this case, my outcomes are number of colds and fevers, and also duration of cold, which are the mean days of illness. So this is for the purpose of this webinar, and hopefully you'll be able to follow through what I'm doing here. So in extraction one, the template, it just controls whichever way you create your template. This will control the data extraction form that will be used by the reviewers to actually extract the data from individual studies. So, for example, here I have added as an outcome duration of cold, and then you'll see that it appears as a table in the extraction form, which will be used by the reviewers to extract the actual data. So, and all of this I'm gonna show you now. So what I'll do is I'll go to one of my reviews here. I hope you can all see the screen. I'm just double checking. Yeah, it's 100%. Right. So, this is one of my active reviews. And if you have used Covidence, you might have seen this already, like the review summary page looks like this, and this is where the extraction takes place. So I'll just click here, continue. And so during extraction, sorry. So when you first come here, click extraction, you'll see that like you see the reference here, but you're not able to do anything. Like on the right-hand side, you don't see any buttons to click on like how to extract the data. So it actually tells you create a template to begin data extraction. And from where you create the template, it's the blue box here. If when you first come here, you'll see the box are blue, and then when you publish the template, this turns in white. And again, I'll show you that, but let me first click here to give you an overall view of how this data extraction template really looks like. So right. So this is really what it looks like. And you can customize the template to fit your specific needs. And once you're happy with your template, you can simply click here, publish template. And when you click here, this will make this template available to all the authors of the review. And all the changes that you do here will apply to all the studies. And so, for example, if you're not happy with the template, you can always come back and you can do the same. You can click that template button on the top, and that's how you can come back here. You can make the changes, you can add any field, you can remove any field if you want. And if you remove the field, the data that is associated with that specific field will also be removed. And but you will see the warning. So if you have collected the data against any field and you try to delete it, you will see that the warning comes up and you need to confirm that you want to delete that specific data. So if you see any sort of pop-ups or warnings appear, pay attention to them because we do not want you to lose any data. And Abdul Momin, so we will, after completing this template, we will actually be taking questions. So let me just complete this one. So, and then we'll have the question answer slots and you can feel free to ask your question then. Right. So overall, what you see here there are 5 sections. So identification, methods, population, intervention, and outcomes. So these are the main sections. For each of these sections, you'll see there's a small question mark in here. So when you click on them, you'll see this pop-up, which is designed to give you additional information there. And this actually shows you that what you're doing here, how it will look like on the form. And there's this additional link in here, how to set up the identification. So it will take you to the knowledge base page, and it has more information about each section. So make use of all these articles. They are full of useful information. And so you will see 2 things. So there are some default fields. And when I say default, it means that they cannot be changed or deleted. Like you do not see any option here of editing or any trash icon, but you see that here. So you can basically customize these sections. And for all of these sections, we have added a few details, and that's based on our research and interaction with the users. And these examples are basically to provide you something to start with. You can add something, or if you click here, you can delete as well. And you can add like this. So coming towards the identification section of the template, it's designed to basically capture the general information about studies, including where it was conducted, how it was funded, and how to contact the lead author if you have any questions. So the 3 main subheadings are study details and author contact details and the additional information. So this study details that basically allows you to record the basic information about the study, and that includes a sponsorship source to record how the study was funded, country to record where the study was conducted, and then the settings for noting any type of the type of place or environment the study was conducted in. So whether it was like outpatient clinics or schools or any other community or clinical setting. And comments is to basically capture anything else noteworthy about the study to consider during the synthesis or write-up, or even for discussions with the co-authors. The second subheading is author detail, and there are 4 default options here: name, institute, email address, and address. So very recently, you will see that you'll see suggestions for if you have DOI entered for a paper, you'll see that AI will automatically extract these 3 fields: the sponsorship source, name, and the country and the name of the author. So these 3 fields, you will just need to check what AI has extracted, and based on that, you can either accept or reject or edit the suggestion. So you might have noticed that these two fields are where you cannot do anything, like you cannot edit this, but this additional data is the place where you can add any additional custom fields to capture data. And so based on the user research, we have added a few information. And if, for example, I want to add more information, I can do that here. For example, if I also want information on a study center, or for example, I also want to extract the trial registry number. So I can do that. Or if I want to edit, I can do that as well, or delete. So that's about the identification section. Coming towards the method section. So you can basically here capture the design and the aims and conduct of the study, basically. So again, there is a link to the knowledge base, which you can go and check in detail whenever you are whenever you're creating your template. And here you'll see there are two subheadings, method details and the additional data. So this is how it looks like on the template, but when you go to the form, this design, for example, you'll see it will be dropped down. And when I'll show you the exact form, I'll actually compare that with what you have created on the template and how it looks like on the form. So design is basically a drop down where you'll see there are seven common types of study designs that you'll see, like RCTs, case control, cohort, etc., along with an other option as well. And then group is basically a multiple choice question, multiple choice field, and it's to record whether a study had a parallel design or a crossover design. So parallel is something that when there are two or more groups that are receiving different intervention at the same time, and the crossover is when two or more groups they receive the same intervention but in different order. So, and the second subheading is basically the additional information. Again, this is a place for adding any custom information that suits the specifics of your review that are not captured within the method's other headings. So examples could be for the additional data, you can basically, for example, you can say study aims. This you can enter to record the purpose of the study, or you can also say, you can also add, for example, unit of analysis. So unit of analysis, it means that what was a unit of randomization? So whether the participants, they were randomized, or centers like schools or clinics, or that could even be the parts of the body like eyes or joints, whichever suits your review needs. So that's basically to consider the correct form at the point of synthesis. And another commonly used field is method of recruitment. So this is to capture whether participants were recruited via clinics or surveys, basically to consider how it may affect the population that was identified. All right, so coming towards the population section then, you will see here three subheadings: population details, baseline characteristics, and any additional data. So here you can capture inclusion-exclusion criteria, and if there are any group differences. For example, this is a space to note any important ways the intervention group differed, such as higher age or lower severity score or anything. So you can just type in here, and you'll see that as a short answers within the form. The second is the baseline characteristics. And this is again where you can include whatever is relevant to your own review. So here, some of the very commonly extracted data is mean age, which you'll see on the default template. The next is, for example, gender, and here to minimize confusion, you can just say percentage of females, or whichever way your protocol tells you to extract the data. And you can also extract, for example, baseline drug exposure, or something that's also common is BMI. And what you'll see is these baseline characteristics that you define in this template, they'll appear as a table when you completed that extraction form. And there will be different columns for example, for each intervention group and also the overall population. Again, I'll show you. within the template itself. And then finally, any additional data that you want to add in here, you can do that here. So, right, you can basically add, for example, number of withdrawals or reason for withdrawal or anything else that you want to do. Then coming towards the intervention section. So this is where you capture details about your intervention arms, intervention that were received during received in each group in the study. So here I'll add an intervention. If you remember, I showed you that my intervention is vitamin C. So I can add it here, and my control is simple placebo. So I can add that in here. If you anticipate multiple intervention arms, so you can also add those by using this. So for example, vitamin C plus zinc, like whatever you anticipate, whichever arms you anticipate, you can do that. And you can come back here later after you have after you start extracting as well. So then the intervention characteristics. So this is a subheading that allows you to add any custom field within the template. So you can, within the template, you can add characteristics to capture the details about the intervention that was received during the study. We have added a few characteristics for you, like number of participants, dose frequency, or and there are others that you can add. For example, one thing that is common is route of administration. Right. So again, you will see that as a table within the form. Coming towards the last section, which is the outcome section. So this is to record any numerical data for outcome of interest and additional information about how each outcome was defined and measured. You will see this, we give you two options, continuous data or dichotomous data. And once you click any of these, there are three things that you need to define. Number one is the name of the outcome. So if you remember from the slide, I had one of the outcomes that I wanted to capture was duration of hold. So I can add that in the name here, and I wanted to have that as days. So I'll be capturing that's a continuous data. And so view list of data formats. This is basically something that when you click here, you will see that different options here for the specific measures we have in the form, which you can collect. These are for continuous, these are for dichotomous. And you can also add custom data if you like. You don't have to select anything here, but it's just to show you what are the kind of measures for the continuous or for the dichotomous data. Right, so we wrote the name and we selected the type, and then it comes towards to the time point. So here I'm going to add, for example, 2 months. I can add more time points as well. Maybe I can show you for the second outcome. So first was the duration of cold. Now I am adding number of colds, like the cold frequency. And again, this is actually continuous data. And here I want to capture first the data at baseline, then I want to capture data at 6 months, and then I want to capture data at 8 months. So, right. And if you want to delete anything, you can also do that within the template, and that I'll show you. But overall, once you're happy with your template, so these are just some of the other fields. Again, this will something I'll show you during the extraction. So yes, once you are done with creating the template, you can then click here, publish the template, and the form will be available for your team to start extraction. So I'll pause here. for any questions you have until this point before I move forward and show you how this template looks like when you're extracting your data. So I'll hand over to Delindia to answer any questions that she saw were very commonly asked within the question answers box.
Thanks, Rosie. Several of the questions that have come in have been in reference to if my systematic review includes qualitative and quantitative research, is it possible to use the same process for data extraction? If you're conducting an interventional review, we recommend that extraction one is the two. If you're conducting a qualitative review, we recommend that you use extraction two as it is more flexible in nature. So, will this be recorded? Yes, this session will be recorded and you will receive a link to the webinar within 24 hours. If we conduct integrative reviews, both including qualitative and quantitative studies, which is best to use? We provided a link to the knowledge base article, but once again, the extraction two is a more flexible tool that supports both intervention studies and qualitative. You can proceed, Razia.
Thank you, Delindia. Don't worry, we'll have another slot for question answers towards the end as well. We really want that we complete the webinar on time. So let me just proceed. And so you saw here that, so I'm not, oh, no, okay. All right, so once I have published my data extraction template, you see that these data extraction template that from blue, it has converted to white, the color of this. And this is to show that there is a published template that is available for the review team to extract to use that for data extraction. So once you have published it, you can actually start the extraction. So you can actually see that you see the options to start. And once you start the extraction and then you want to come back again, you'll see that incomplete option will appear. So what I'm going to do right now, and you'll also see unavailable. So for example, for consensus, you see that unavailable until the reviewer 1 and reviewer 2, they both have sent their extraction forms for consensus. So they both need to complete the form so the consensus will become available then. And also if there is some other reviewer who has started extracting the data, so you'll also see unavailable in that case. So here I will go to, for example, this study. And so this is how the actual form looks like with different tabs. And then on the left-hand side, you'll see this PDF that you have uploaded in the full text. You can also upload it here, or the full text within the extraction section, but most of you would have uploaded that for the full text screening. So that will just be transferred here. So what you'll see here is that you can zoom in, zoom out, and you'll see if you have done systematic reviews, you might have seen that sometimes you need to change the orientation of the table from vertical to horizontal. So you can also do that from here. And if you can simply click here or click Control Find, and you can search for a key term and it will highlight that for you. And finally, you can also you make use of the slider here. So if you want to maximize or minimize the template size, you can, the extraction form size, you can do that this way. So this is the review summary page. And this is basically the actual summary of the all the sections. So when we were creating the template, we saw that there were different sections like identification, methods, population, intervention. So this is basically the overall summary of whatever you add in these sections. So you're not able to edit anything here because it will populate what you have entered in all these tabs really. So and yeah, here I also wanted to tell that if you want to update the data extraction form for the study, then you must update the template. And only the template creator, they can update the template unless you change the rules in the settings. So this is basically so that the consistent data can be collected across all the studies. And when I say settings, I think it's best to show you where you need to go. So there are two ways you can access the settings. One is that you click here and then you click team settings. The other way is where the overall settings are. You click here on the settings, then team settings from here, and then these are title and abstract settings, full text settings, and here's the extraction settings. So by default, you'll see here everyone can do everything. But if you want to manage the rules, you can do that from here. So there are three main rules. Number one, first reviewer for each study must be either. So this lets you define, these are all the reviewers who are working on this review. So this lets you define who must extract the data from the studies first. You could use this functionality to ensure that any experienced reviewer will be the first reviewer, because the first reviewer, they have some additional permissions that we'll talk about in a moment. And then a consensus can be resolved by. So this lets you control who can complete the consensus during the data extraction. And by the way, along with this rule, you also, the consensus reviewer also needs to be either the first or the second reviewer of a study. Then finally, templates must be edited by, can be edited by. So this lets you control who can basically edit the data extraction and also the quality assessment templates. By default, again, the template can be updated or created by any member of the team. So if you want to limit that, you can use this feature. So you can basically either say that you can click across here if you do not want that person to extract the template, or you can select that reviewer and you can add them here. So in the same way, you can also add in the reviewers for all these sections. So I'll now go back to my extraction template to show the exact form. Right, so I think we were here. So again, this is the summary page and you cannot edit that. It's populated automatically based on what you enter here. Now coming towards the identification section. So remember we had these fields, sponsorship source, country settings. You will see that as short answers here: sponsorship source, country settings, comments. So that's how it will appear on the form. And yeah, the automatic extraction that I was talking about, so you'll see that like this. So the first time when you enter your data extraction form, you'll see these suggestions, and these suggestions are basically based on the metadata. So you see that there is no full text article uploaded here, but it has suggested this. This is based on the DOI. So if in your import you have the DOI for the studies, for the references, it will extract this information for you. And we're also working on improving, having AI extract more information. to assist with the data extraction process. Now, right, so these are the author details, and you can basically just copy paste anything from here. So for example, if I want to add this in comments or whatever, I can simply do that here. And then the additional identification fields. So remember, I added the study centers and the trial registries. These are basically the custom field that I had added, study centers, trial registry numbers. And I did that and it appeared like this. So everything that you add in this section will appear as a short question answers. Now going towards the method section. So here you'll see that as I mentioned that this will be a drop-down menu. So here there are different study designs to choose from, and you can also say whether it was a parallel group, crossover, or whatever, and then study aims, everything that we added as an additional fields here. Study aim, unit of analysis, you'll see those here. In the population tab, we had inclusion, exclusion criteria, group differences as default fields, and we can see that here. And then the additional population data was something that we added as our custom measures. Um, um, so and the population. Also, the baseline characteristics, we had added female and the mean age. So here I want to bring your attention towards whatever you add in here. This will, when first you go to the form, you'll see that as one column. But as you start adding your intervention, there will be different columns that will appear, and you can then extract the information. And here, how so you when you see this as just one column, you'll need to go to intervention and select your intervention. So for example, even here you see placebo, vitamin C, these are two columns. And when I tick here, when I check here, you'll see another option, another column that appear. And similarly, here you'll see another column that appears so that you can extract the information for that intervention arm. And so coming towards actual intervention, so at study level, basically what you can do is you can use the checkbox to select the interventions that are relevant to a particular study. But if you want to add anything here, then you need to then you need to make those changes in the template. So if you're a second reviewer, then you will need to contact the first reviewer or the template creator or someone who has the so you need to basically add that within the template. So you need to ask the template creator to add these so that you can check here. And only first reviewer will see these options. I'll show you how it looks like for the second reviewers. Second reviewer cannot select that. Right. So if you untick any intervention for which you already have extracted the entered the data, you will see this option that you're about to remove this. And you need to confirm here to say that you are actually sure that you want to remove the data that you have entered for that particular intervention. So currently I don't want to lose that data, so I will cancel it. And so here in this table, you can do different things. So for example, if you might have come across such situation where the studies, they report the intervention names differently. So for example, for vitamin C, if a study reports as, it doesn't say vitamin C, but it says ascorbic acid. So you can add that in here as reported by the study. Or what you can also do is that, so for example, if in a study, the arms have different dosage. So there's the vitamin C intervention arms, but um, one of the arms, they received, for example, 500 mg, and then there's this another arm that receives 1000 mg. So you can do that from here. So you can simply add more columns, or you can delete. Now, coming towards the outcome section. So when you first open the outcome section, you'll find all the outcomes that you defined on the template. So as the first reviewer, you can select which outcomes are reported in this particular study by clicking the checkbox here. So whichever checkbox you add, for example, I'm adding fever, and you'll see another column appear. And again, if I delete something for which the data has been extracted, it will show me the warning. And so here, for example, duration of cold, that's reported as not duration, but length of cold. So you can add that here. And then this is number is reported as frequency. So you can use this space basically for adding anything that's reported within a particular study. And then coming towards the time point. So the way time point works is that you can add in time points for each outcome as the first reviewer. So sometimes what you will see is that you're interested in 2 months, but study reports it as 8 weeks or 9 weeks. So you can add how the study reports a particular time point, and you'll see that appear like that. And also, if you want to delete a time point, for example, you see that this study does not report any outcomes at 8 months, so I can simply remove that. And if I want to add again, so if there's a time point that I defined on the template, so I can add that in here as well. And then these are some of the other outcomes, optional outcome fields that you can add in information for. And once you are basically, once uh, uh, you create all of that, you will end up with tables like these in the results section. And a few things here. So in the results section, if you see that any data is missing, you can, for example, say you can add in data missing here, the tag for the data missing. And if you later on see that, oh no, data is actually there, you can again click here and remove this tag. Again, for the first reviewer, there are a few other things that they can edit. So for example, they can add some additional things. You find that the data is not reported as mean or standard deviation, but it's actually reported as effect estimate. So they can select here as effect estimate, and then they can select from several options like mean difference, standard mean difference, or if there are things that are not in there, then they can create new custom new effect measure as well. And for example, IQR, and then they can choose the format, integer, decimal. So currently I'm not doing that, but if you click here as an effect estimate, you will also need to report. So here, for example, I am writing this, and you'll also need to say that which is the reference arm, so placebo. And then when I click save here, what you'll see is vitamin C versus placebo, because these are effect estimates. So that's how this overall template works. And I know that we have only 10 minutes. So what I'll do now is that I'll quickly show how the consensus and the export looks like. Okay. So, also a few things that you can do. For example, you can click manage reviewers. And if you want to change your first or the second reviewer, you can do that from here. And once you do that, for example, I want to add Laura here. I have the option to transfer the Geeta's form, or I can start the new review from the scratch. I don't want to do that right now. The other thing that you can do is just like any section, you can add tags and you can filter the tags. And something that's important that comes up more in when it comes to interventional reviews is that sometimes you find that several papers are reporting the same study. So you need to merge this so that they become one report. So for example, I click here and I click here. So I see this merge a study pop up. So if I want to merge these two references, I can do that. by clicking merge as a study. And when I do that, I will need to assign which one of them is a primary study. So I can do that from here, and they appear as a same study, and I can unmerge as well. So this is very important because sometimes when the several studies are reporting on the same trial, then there's a chance that you duplicate the participants. You double count that, and that will affect your outcomes, your meta-analysis significantly. So now coming towards the consensus, how you will see the consensus is that here. So you'll click compare, and then for anything where there's a difference between the two reviewers decision, you will need to select. So for example, I can say not reported Australia or whatever, but you'll see that wherever there's just one thing that was populated by one reviewer, it will be automatically populated. And similarly, if the decisions are exactly the same for both reviewer, that's also automatically populated. But wherever there are any discrepancies, we can either click on the decision that we want in the consensus form, or we can type onto that. So for example, here I want to say that it's actually HEI. Just I want to write this. I can do literally type onto this. And then once I'm done, I can complete the form, and then it will be available for consensus will be available for export. And quickly showing you how the export looks like. So there are two ways you can export your data. One is through the review summary page. Other way is to directly access it from here. Just click here, export. And then you can either export your consensus data only, or you can export like all extracted data. And there are two different exports for data extraction and for quality assessment. So for example, I want to export consensus only data. So I'll select here this and then CSV, and then I'll prepare the file. And then you'll see here it shows pending. And once it prepares, it will allow me to download the data there. Another thing is you can export to RevMin5, or you can export to RevMin Web. When you click here, export to RevMin Web, you'll see there are 5 files that will appear. So basically, these 5 files you'll have to individually download and make a few minor changes, and then import it to RevMin Web. And we have separate webinars for that. And here's also Covidence step-by-step guide on this, on how to do that. Now, if you have if you have exported the consensus only CSV, this is how it will look like. So these are, for example, 3 studies. So this is, sorry, 1 studies with 3 rows. Each row is for the different row for intervention group. And this is just for the consensus data. Now, if you also export individual studies, you'll see that all of these rows are for one study, but these are forms for reviewer 1, reviewer 2, consensus. You'll also see the name of the reviewers here. And yeah, so you'll see a lot more rows if you're also exporting individual data. Now, if you export CSV, this will be a separate sheets for different studies. So one is basically the overall summary of whatever studies were there, like the names and reference and the titles. And then for each of the study, you'll see that separately. Now, for RevMin files, so they are like separate files that look like these. So like this is intervention data, which is separate, and then this is the outcome data, which is separate, and then yeah, so you'll see that here. You'll see the files for study information separately, study arm separately, study results separately, study custom results separately. So these are multiple files for if you're exporting to RevMin Web. Okay, so we have only 4 minutes, so I'll end here, and I'll just basically I will run a poll in here so we can, sorry. And I will also hand over to Stephanie so she can also answer the questions after the poll. So I have now launched the poll and you will see that on your screen. So this time what I want to know is that having watched the webinar, do you now intend to use Extraction 1 in your Covidence reviews? And I'll give it a few seconds because we do not have a lot of time. But I mean, if there are critical questions, we will get back to you on emails. So, and you can always email us at support@covidence.org. And Covidence team is very much known to respond pretty quickly. So feel free to email us at any time. And so I see that about 100 of you have already responded. I'll just give it a couple more seconds. And until then, Stephanie will be gathering the questions to respond. All right, so I'm now ending the poll. And it's great to see that now 74% of you are actually intending to use Extraction 1 in your Covidence review. So that is great. And we're always here to help you out with that. All right, now I'll hand over to Stephanie.
Thanks, Razia. Some questions that have come up again and again are, can you do single reviewer extraction in Extraction 1? So no, single reviewer is only compatible with Extraction 2. One workaround for this is if you have done some single reviewer extraction in Extraction 1, you can export the data as Razia has demonstrated to us, export that to file if you need to get your data, which leads into another question is, can you carry over work between the Extraction 1 and Extraction 2 tools? So no, you cannot, and that's because the forms are very different structures, so it won't automatically carry over work between the two tools. But you can check which tool that you're using under your settings and review settings, so you can see which extraction tool that you're using. I did see a few, or at least one person who was actually using the Extraction 2 tool, but you can change over to Extraction 1 if that's better suited to your review. And another question that did come up again and again is, can I use Extraction 1 for a qualitative review? So Extraction 1 is best used for an intervention systematic review, so if you're doing a mixed methods or a qualitative study, the Extraction 2 tool would be better for you. And if you do have questions about Extraction 2, which we did not show today, we do have some a training on that, a webinar that is recorded and is available in our knowledge base. I think that's time.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I was also looking at some of the questions and answered a couple. And for rest of the questions, I'll get back to you by email. Thank you so much for attending the webinar. I hope it was useful and have nice rest of the day. Bye.